Welcome to the Jaybefaunt channel. I am your host, James Fauntleroy. So good to see all of you here on this beautiful Tuesday afternoon. The Jaybefaunt channel is available on all major podcast platforms, so go ahead and subscribe. They're also on part of the Revolutionary Blackout Network, so you guys can see me on Sundays, Tuesdays, typically, and Thursdays. Just wanted to give you guys a shout out for joining me on this beautiful Tuesday afternoon. Just letting you guys know, if you guys have not already, the Jaybefaunt channel is also on Substack. If you guys like to, you guys can go to jaybefaunt.substack.com so you guys are notified of whenever I upload clips or if I have any type of articles or live streams that are happening as well. Also, if you guys have not already, then you guys can also subscribe to my Patreon, which I'll be getting to in a little bit. I am running behind and I do dearly apologize to all of you. It's been a morning, so just to let you guys know. There will be an address that I will be giving to some friends as well, because I think this is very important. And so I think that I'll be doing that in the second half of this hour. So I'll be addressing that too. So we'll be getting into that in a second. But we will also be getting into the initial story for today. That's the reason why you're here. So we'll be getting into that. Before I get into that, just wanted to say hello to everybody that's in the chat that's joining me this day. So good to see. The first person in is Miguel H. Giving a peace sign. Good to see you, Miguel. All right. Gregorius asked if this is live. Yes, I am live. I'm live on Tuesdays, so you can always count on me to be live on Tuesdays at 2. So thank you so very much, Kilia Gregors. Serena says, hi, Miguel. Kilia Gregors. She's saying hello to everybody in the chat. So good to see you in here as well. Also, we also have Charnel X coming in. So thank you so very much. Good to see you, Charnel X. Thank you for the love. We also have Cobra Commander. I can't read the rest of your title, but he says, I'm going to have to set up PayPal so I can donate to your wonderful work. Ridiculous you got demonetized. Hopefully it doesn't last. Thank you. Thank you so very much. I really appreciate it. And yes, I am demonetized right now. So thank you so very much to everybody who was in here. I saw that comment by you, Serena. I will also be addressing that in the second half as well. So, but thank you very much. I haven't started, so I can also talk to you about it too. So thank you so very much. So yes, there is a story about Ron DeSantis as well as Donald Trump. We're going to get into that. So what? First of all, what are we talking about today? We're going to be talking about at the end of the stream, closer to the end of the stream, I'm going to be addressing some friends, and this is going to be kind of difficult, but it's necessary. So I'll be addressing some friends closer towards the end of the stream, so stay tuned for that. But right now, we're going to be getting into DeSantis down, Trump up. What in the world is going on in Florida? Look, I'm going to tell y'all right now. Remember back in the day, in 2020, when Kamala Harris was running and she barely won any votes in her own state during the Democratic primary? She didn't get to run technically in her primary in California. And then you saw how she just basically dropped off into obscurity until she was announced as the vice presidential candidate. It kind of feels like that for Ron DeSantis right now. So let's get into it. Here is the article that I saw that I was just like, man, we got to get into this. So let's take a look. That's it. Hang on. Why is this? Oh, let me take that down. Why is my computer acting slow? Oh well. All right, so let's go to this. Wait, what happened to my what happened to my article? Hang on, guys. Why is this? Ah, here it is. Okay. So here's the article. It says, this is out of Orlando Sentinel. It says Trump holds 39-point lead on DeSantis among Florida GOP voters. So let's get into this. This is embarrassing. Let's just be honest. As former President Donald Trump is dominating Governor Ron DeSantis in a new poll of voters in Florida, a state that's home to both. The University of North Florida poll released Tuesday shows that Trump has support of 60% of likely Republican primary voters. DeSantis is second with 21%. That's a gap of 39 percentage points. A slight positive element for DeSantis. He's not faring as badly in Florida as he is nationally. The latest Real Clear Politics of national average polling shows DeSantis at 13.3%. Nationally, Trump is at 58.5%. So, truth be told, this is horrible. And this is really just the aggregate polling. You know how a lot of times people talk about, well, the pollings can be skewed from poll to poll, and some polls are skewed more in one way, some polls are skewed in another way. Well, this is the Real Clear Politics, and it takes an aggregate of a bunch of different polls and then shows where they average according to each poll to give more of an accurate number. In fact, let me show that really quick, just so that you guys can see the actual polling. So is Rasmussen, CNN, Wall Street Journal, Morning Call, Insult, YouGov, Emerson, Messenger, Reuters, Insider. So if you guys look at this and you guys look at the percentage points, so, you know, at the highest that you see is Morning Consult with 60%, right? And then at the highest for DeSantis that you can see is 18% at CNN and Insider. So these are really the aggregate polling, and it averages out to about 14.2% versus Trump is at 52.7. So it's a 38.5 lead in percentage points that Trump has. So that's how drastic it is for somebody like Donald Trump. So it is not looking good for Ron DeSantis, especially in his home state. I'm just saying, like, I am not a conservative. I am not a Republican. I am not a Democrat. I am not a liberal. And so from looking at this, it looks really bad. And I'm just a dude on the sidelines. I have no dog in this fight, but it just looks really bad for DeSantis. It says a slight positive element for DeSantis. That's exactly what it is. It says when asked to choose between Trump and DeSantis in a hypothetical head-to-head race, 59% of respondents said that they will vote for Trump, with 29% for DeSantis and 12% who didn't know or didn't answer the question. It says the results are completely flipped from March in a head-to-head race. In a survey released March 9, 59% of registered Republicans said that they would vote for DeSantis, with 28% for Trump and 14% who didn't know or didn't answer. Florida isn't DeSantis' biggest challenge right now, like all other candidates hoping to emerge as the Republican Party's alternative to Trump. DeSantis cares about early states and the nominating contest, the Iowa caucuses, that's on January, followed by critical early primaries in New Hampshire and South Carolina. The Florida presidential preference primary isn't until March 19th. So we have about 4 months until that happens. So, regards to Trump, and he keeps skipping out on debates, which apparently in some way is working for him. It says on Wednesday, DeSantis, Haley, Christie, and Ramaswamy will participate in a presidential debate originating in Miami. With his commanding lead, Trump doesn't debate with other candidates. Instead, he'll hold a rally in Hialeah. So, if you would have asked me last year, would Trump skipping out on debates, would that be a good strategy or bad strategy? I would have told you it's a bad strategy. It's a poor strategy overall. But for some reason, it's working for Trump. And so, and the crazy part is, essentially, Trump isn't really engaged in a primary. It's like he's letting all the others fight amongst themselves. And he's like, I'm running and I'm going to win. So I'm just going to coast along and just campaign as if I am the presumptive nominee. And as far as among voters are going, technically he is the presumptive nominee. He's at least the de facto nominee, right? Versus all the other candidates, versus, and the number one out of all the other candidates that are running, I mean, you have DeSantis. If you really look at people like Christie, Ramaswamy, and Haley, they're really non-issues. They're, especially between Christie, Ramaswamy, and Haley, they're peanuts. Their numbers are peanuts compared to Trump. And DeSantis is not even making 20%. So my question for DeSantis is, are you running to be a vice president, Joe Pick? That's what it feels like. Now, a lot of times people have said, well, you have different people who have been the leader of the pack early, but then by the time you get to the actual primaries, then, things flip, right? Something tells me it's not really going to. Part of which is because Donald Trump is culture war-ish. He is culture war, but he's not as heavy on it as DeSantis is. DeSantis is more culture war over economics, whereas Trump is kind of half culture war, half economics. He might lean a little bit more in economics, right? Even though his economics are horrid, right? And he is all about austerity, he still leans more in the conservative economic sphere than DeSantis does. DeSantis is more culture war, and even some Republicans are like, yeah, but what are you going to do about jobs? What are you going to do about the economy? Right? So that's what it feels like. It says DeSantis has some pull in Florida. Pollsters asked Republicans about their preferences to run for governor in 2026. The largest share, 40%, said they didn't know or didn't want to answer, but 22% said they vote for Casey DeSantis, the governor's wife. Ugh. So of course the poll using live calls by phone, they never called me, but I'm not Republican anyway, so they would never call me. But these polls never call me. Even if it's like independents, they don't call me. I guess because I don't have a landline, and who mostly has landlines is older people. But the funny part is, this is funny. So this is from Michael Bender. He said, despite historically high approval in the polls, Governor DeSantis is losing steam in his home state doesn't bode well with his national campaign. He says, even if you wipe out the rest of the competition in the head-to-head, Trump still leads DeSantis by 20 points. And it says on Monday, the DeSantis campaign attacked Trump, posting a series of video snippets in which Trump makes strange and mixed-up statements, a move to convince voters that the former president isn't fit to serve as president. So here's the funny part. So I'm going to share this. Yeah. This is funny because from what it looks like is DeSantis campaign is kind of flailing right now. And let's take a look. So they're basically trying to paint Donald Trump in the same way that they would paint a Joe Biden. They're basically trying to make Donald Trump look like he is, cognitively, he's losing cognitive ability, which, I mean, there's probably definitely an argument for that, but it's probably not as bad as Joe Biden. So this is from DeSantis War Room. It says, thread, there is a running list of every one of Donald Trump's fumbles, accidents, and confused moments from this year. Note, this is why his handlers won't let him debate. So they're saying this is the reason why. So let's take a look at this, where it says Trump recently forgot what state he was in, prompting handlers to inform him that he was in Iowa. So let's take a look at this.
A very big hello to a place where we've done very well, Sioux Falls. Thank you very much, Sioux Falls. So, Sioux City, let me ask you a very big hello.
So he got it mixed up, right? And we all get mixed up. We all get mixed up from time to time. Sioux City, Sioux Falls. Innocent mistake, right? But here's another one. Because Trump has been having serious troubles with names lately. On a number of occasions, he confused Obama and Biden. People are saying this is concerning as well. So Trump is confusing names now.
As you know, crooked Joe Biden and the radical left thugs who have weaponized law enforcement to arrest their leading political opponent, and leading by a lot, including Obama. I'll tell you what, you take a look at Obama and take a look at some of the things that he's done. This is the same thing. The country is very divided. And we did with Obama. We won an election that everyone said couldn't be won. We beat Hillary Clinton. Now, you know, I used to call her Crooked Hillary, as you know.
So these are just some of the missteps that Trump has been saying. And then Trump was asked about his use of special forces to inflict maximum damage on drug cartels. They call him in death. So let's take a look at this.
You say you would order the Defense Department to use special forces to inflict maximum damage
I didn't
on
say
drug
that.
cartels.
No. People said I said that. Why would I say that? I didn't say that.
Furthermore, I will order the Department of Defense to make appropriate use of special forces to inflict maximum damage.
Okay, what would you do?
I didn't say that.
What
I
would
wouldn't
you
tell
do?
you what I do. Why would I say that? Because, again, People said I said. I didn't say that.
Let's go to Governor DeSantis. As president, would you support sending U.S. Special Forces over the border to take out fentanyl lab, drug cartel operations? Would you support that kind of American military use?
Yes, and I will do it on day one. The cartels are...
All right, I don't feel like hearing from this asshole. But basically saying that they would send the military in to fight what they call drug cartels. And here's Megyn Kelly asking the same question.
You also said recently that if you're reelected, you would send special forces and, quote, other military assets to Mexico to stop the drug cartels. The Mexican president is very much against this. You're going to start a war?
Well, he's a friend of mine. He's a great guy. He's a friend of mine. He's a socialist, but you can't have everything. And I think a lot of him, and he thinks a lot of me, we're friends. And he said the same thing happened to him. He had a rigged election years ago. He said the exact same thing happened to him. No, I didn't say that. Somebody said I said that. And actually it was met with great applause, if you want to know the truth. They said that I said that at a meeting.
So you're not going to
use the pen. I'm not going to say what I'm going to do. I mean, I may do something. Something has to be done. Look.
You also said.
I'll just focus on that part where you said, you know, he's a socialist, but you can't have everything. You know, I'm friends with him. I'm like, you're friends with AMLO? I wouldn't even call AMLO a socialist. At least not, I never heard him call himself a socialist. I mean, maybe social democrat, but AMLO? Socialist? Nah, but I mean, he does want to do things like nationalize the lithium, which I am in full agreement with, because ultimately it's really the resources of the collective resources of the people that should determine, you know, the profit that they make off of the land. And it should not be in private hands for them to extract all that money and resources for them to put money at the top. But friends? Would AMLO call him a friend? I highly doubt Kim Jong-un would call Trump a friend. Like, they were friendly. They were cordial, but a friend? But anyways, the DeSantis campaign is really trying to make Trump seem like he is friendly with socialists. In reality, Trump's not friendly with socialists. Like, Trump tried to play both fences, but in the end, he'll always go to the right? He's not friendly with socialists. In fact, he doesn't want socialists to be in the United States, right? So when it comes to people like Trump, DeSantis is trying to paint him as more liberal or left wing. And to be honest with you, it feels like Trump is just, I mean, he's in his 70s, man. And this is one of the ones that I also wanted to talk about. Here's what he said, and then I'm going to read what the DeSantis war room said.
Nobody ever talked to us that way with China. And I had a good relationship until COVID.
Them, do you think?
Excuse me?
Do you have a strategy for decoupling them as part of this effort?
Well, at least partial decouple, we'll see. They may very well turn out to be fine. I mean, I'm not, look, it's very popular politically. We're going to decouple them.
Yeah, right.
But I think I'd have a very good relationship with China. Nobody ever talked to us that way with China.
Wasn't this the same guy that demonized China like left and right? Wasn't this the guy that talked crap about Xi Jinping like all the time? I have a great relationship with China. You ever have somebody who said that they were close friends with somebody else, but then that other person that they claimed to be very close friends with, they weren't that close to? It's like, Donnie, I don't think the Chinese feel the same way about you. And the thing is, like, he'll say, oh my God, this person's a friend. We have been friends for years. Very good person. But the moment that person disagrees with Trump in any way, then he's a very horrible person. I don't like him. I never liked him. He's bad, very bad, not a good person. It's like what you said yesterday that he was your friend. Donnie, come on, man. So, yeah. And then, so here's the thing, and I think a lot of people would agree, is that when it comes to culture issues, DeSantis is worse, because DeSantis is not a dummy. DeSantis is a very smart guy. He's a lawyer. In fact, he was a JAG lawyer. And so when it comes to how he operates, on a level regarding social issues, he is worse than Trump. He is. And this is like, it's like being drowned in a vat of acid versus being drowned in just a vat of water. You know, you're still both drowning, except for one's going to eat you alive while drowning you. That's kind of what it feels like. So Trump just plays the land in a way where he's not as staunch on these social issues. You guys got to remember, hang on, let me put this back up. You guys got to remember, just about a decade or so ago, Trump was a registered Democrat. So if that gives you guys any semblance of where Trump is, he just goes where the wind blows. And Republican is where the wind blows. But at the same time, he tries to stay socially in the middle of the road, while economically he goes further to the right. But then he'll say some crap that will be like, that'll get the left going, wait, did you just say that? Like, for instance, remember that point when Trump said that we should give Medicare to everybody? He said it during the beginning of the pandemic. He said we should get everybody Medicare. I'm like, wait, did Trump just advocate for Medicare for all? And he did. And that was crazy, right? But then his handlers would go, sir, we don't want to do that. And then he'll backtrack, right? It's weird. It's weird. Like, Trump only goes where the wind blows. He's a crowd pleaser, and that's what he's always been. So let's hear this.
Mr. President, I want to give voters who are going to be weighing in on this election a very clear sense of where you stand on this.
I think they're all going to like me. I think both sides are going to like me.
What's
going to have to happen is you're going to have to
listen.
You're asking me a question. What's going to happen is you're going to come up with a number of weeks or months. You're going to come up with a number that's going to make people happy. because 92% of the Democrats don't want to see abortion after a certain period of time.
If a federal ban landed on your desk, if you were reelected, would you sign it at 15
Are you talking about a complete ban?
A ban at 15 weeks?
Well, people are starting to think of 15 weeks. That seems to be a number that people are talking about right now.
Would you sign that?
I would sit down with both sides and I'd negotiate something, and we'll end up with peace on that issue for the first time in 52 years. I'm not going to say I would or I wouldn't. I mean, DeSantis is willing to sign a 5-week and 6-week ban.
Would you support that? You think that
I think what he did is a terrible thing and a terrible mistake.
Interesting. Now, I think, and women in the chat, please correct me if I'm wrong, but a majority of women don't know they're pregnant until at least 6 weeks. So that in itself, by the time they know they're pregnant, if they wanted to get an abortion, they wouldn't be able to under DeSantis. And Trump is like, the hell? What are you talking about? Even Trump's like, nah, I wouldn't go that far, but like a lot of women are just discovering that they're pregnant by 6 weeks. So you're saying that 5 to 6 weeks, geez Louise, man, they don't even know. Some of them don't even know. So the fact that Trump is to the left of DeSantis on this, it makes you like, what? Like, good Lord. And the funny part is, a lot of Republicans are actually to the left of DeSantis on this too. A lot of them, they say abortion is settled. They don't want to actually fight it. So it's kind of interesting to see. Now, there's something else I want to share with you guys, because there's this issue. Oh, wait. Oh, yeah. Okay. That I wanted to share with you guys regarding Trump and Israel. And this was a few weeks ago. Now, of course, like I said, Trump goes where the wind blows. So it says Trump's turn against Israel offers stark reminder of what his diplomacy looks like. When I first saw this, I was like, wait a minute, what? So this was on October 13th. So this was about a week after Hamas led that attack on Israel. So it says Donald Trump's inflammatory and artless comments about Hamas horror in Israel emphasize the defining characteristic of his attitude toward foreign policy and his entire political worldview. It's all about him. Says Trump criticized Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, lauded Hezbollah militants as very smart, and sought political gain from the attacks that killed 1,200 people by claiming that if the last election was not, you guys see that word, I can't say it because unfortunately I'm on YouTube, he'd be the American president and they never have happened. Does the ex-president openly admitted a grievance against Netanyahu, complaining that he had pulled out at the last minute from joining the U.S. air attack that assassinated Iranian intelligence chief Qasem Soleimani in Iraq of 2020. Just as a reminder to people, Lord, hang on, sorry. Just as a reminder to people who Qasem Soleimani is, he was also against ISIS. He was literally fighting ISIS. And he was essentially assassinated by Trump. And there was a threat of a war between Iran and the United States, because that's what Trump did. So somebody who was actually helping to fight terrorism was killed. Let's remind people of that. So Qasem Soleimani was an anti-terrorist. And Trump. And then threatened a war with Iran. So, and then Netanyahu pulled out the last minute. It says Trump had previously fumed over the Israeli leaders' perceived disloyalty in recognizing he lost the election. Trump is now a private citizen, and it's possible he wouldn't have addressed the situation in the same way if he were president, although there would be multiple examples of his tone deafness and indiscretion where he was in the White House. But he's also the 2024 Republican frontrunner for president, and his statements are therefore scrutinized for clues over how he will behave in office. His latest comments add to plentiful evidence that a second Trump term will be even more raucous at home and globally disruptive than the first 4 years in power. Now, that's what Trump said a few weeks ago. Want to know what Trump said today? All right, let's go. I'm telling you, Trump goes the way the wind blows. Hang on. Let's see. Yep, here we go. So this is out of Vanity Fair. It says Donald Trump, after bashing Netanyahu, is trying to shore up his pro-Israel cred. It says, given the hyper-polarized state of American politics, it was perhaps inevitable that the Israel-Hamas war will become a flashpoint in the 2024 presidential election. First of all, let's dispense with this. They call it Israel-Hamas war. First of all, this isn't a war. A war would denote two equal opposing sides fighting against each other for supremacy within a region. There are over 600,000 Israeli soldiers as well as reservists in Israel. Hamas only amounts to 40,000, meaning only 2% of Palestine consists of Hamas. Number one. Number two, Hamas is paramilitary. When you think paramilitary, think of Boogaloo Boys, right? Or think of some of these right-wing paramilitaries that wear the camo, right? Wear the camouflage, that practice their guns, you know, in the wooded areas and stuff like that. Some of them, a lot of them, they have beards and they wear dark shades and shit. When you think of paramilitary, that's what you think of. No heavy tanks, no armored vehicles. They got parasails versus Israel has F-35 fighter jets, right? So it is not the same. This is somebody with a single issue firearm versus somebody with a Uzi, right? Like, it's not even somebody with an Uzi. This is a 357 Magnum versus a tank. That's basically what it is. So when people say it's a war, it's not. And also, the thing about Hamas is that's a paramilitary group, and yet, all the people who are being killed are Palestinian citizens. Bombs, churches, schools being bombed. So it's not a war, it's a genocide. I just want to put that out there because a lot of people are saying, Israel-Hamas war. No, it is not a war. And if it was a war, they would send in special targeted troops to go after Hamas. But they're not. They're just carpet bombing everybody in Gaza. That's what it is. That's not. No. Anyway, let's continue. Because these articles will make it sound like it's equal when it's not. It says the Israel-Hamas quote-unquote war will become a flashpoint in the 2024 presidential election. Republicans have been competing to outdo each other in the expressions of support for Israel. Last weekend, Republican presidential candidates descended on Las Vegas for the annual meeting of Republican Jewish Coalition at the Venetian. Donald Trump positioned himself as the most pro-Israel candidate in the field. Let me see if I can do my Donald Trump impression again. It'll be annoying, but it's whatever. It says, I will defend our friend and ally, the state of Israel, like nobody has ever defended. I love Israel. That's what he said after his RJC speech. And this was in front of 1,000+ crowd of donors and activists. Trump privately had dinner with Miriam Adelson, the widow of late GOP mega donor Sheldon Adelson. Trump's effusive speech was damage control for having criticized Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and calling Hezbollah very smart after days Hamas militants invaded Israel and murdered 1,400 people on October 7th. First of all, just to let you guys know that number of 1,400 is actually less than what Israel has actually reported. And I will get into that in a second. It says Trump's comments open himself to rare criticism on the right. Here's the crazy part. It says, I am so ashamed of what he said. That's from Morton Klein. He told the Washington Post, says, how does one expect support from people who care about Israel after making statements like this? Nikki Haley pounced on. She said, as president, I will not compliment Hezbollah, nor will I criticize Israel's prime minister in the middle of tragedy and war. And this is the part that I want to give you guys attention to. This is crazy. It says Trump advisors have been worried about bashing Netanyahu in the middle of a war would hurt Trump politically with pro-Israel GOP voters. Republicans and private are praising Joe Biden. Strong support for Israel. Quote, A+, a Republican donor texted me. For Republicans, Biden backing Israel is a win-win. He is giving Republicans a policy they favor while at the same time alienating progressive voters, a key part of the Democratic base. Quote, he's continuing to support Israel under massive pressure from his left flank. So you got to love him, give him credit for that. That's what they said. So you have the GOP praising Biden for his stance on Israel. Meanwhile, a majority of the world is actually standing with Palestine. Just look at what happened last Saturday. Last Saturday, 300,000 people came in support of Palestine in Washington, D.C. 300,000. There have been millions and millions of people all over the world in support of Palestine because of what Israel has been doing. But you have the far right praising Biden for his stance on Israel. It's interesting. Also, related to this, remember when I covered the Nazis that came to Orlando and they praised Biden for his support of the Ukrainian Nazis? did I hear a lot of these voices speaking out against Biden for that? Let's finish this article. It says there are signs that Biden won't stay in lockstep with Netanyahu, whom the White House aides reportedly see as potentially losing power in Israel. Given when the president this week suggested a pause on humanitarian grounds, though still stopped short of calling for a ceasefire, bucking the demands of some lawmakers in his party and potentially turning off voters. According to an October 31st poll, Biden's support among Arab Americans, a key constituency in Midwest battleground states, plunged to 17%. So, yeah, that's what's going on right now. You have the GOP looking at Biden with more kinder eyes. But now, because the narrative has shifted, because a lot of people are realizing what the state of Israel is doing, now it's pushing Biden to be a little bit more softer on what's going on with Palestinians. And now that's making a lot of the Zionists upset and angry. And now they're like, they're like, Biden, why are you wavering? They're like, dude, you were with us. What's going on? The world is seeing what's going on. And so with that, I want to share some news as well. Now, let's see. Just where I had it. Oh yeah, here it is. So I'm going to share this as well, because when it comes to people like Trump and DeSantis and all them, it's really just, there is a lot of hypocrisy among them, and they don't actually care about Jewish people. It's just, they don't care about Jewish people, they care about Zionists, right? And just remember, as an aside, not all Jewish people are Zionists, and not all Zionists are Jewish. There's a lot of Christians that are Zionists. So just to let you guys know that. Examples of Christian Zionists: Biden, Trump, Obama, Bush. Need I go further? They're all Zionists, but they're not Jewish. So let's go ahead and go into here. So Florida Governor Ron DeSantis rejects idea of Palestinian refugees in the U.S. After an event in Iowa, governor conflates Palestinian civilians with Hamas, the terrorist group that attacked Israel a week ago, that they consider a terrorist group. Says Republican presidential candidate and Florida Governor Ron DeSantis has rejected accepting Palestinian refugees from Gaza into the U.S., speaking at a campaign rally in U.S. Midwest on Saturday. He said, we cannot accept people from Gaza into this country as refugees. He said, if you look at how they behave, not all of them are Hamas, but they are all anti-Semitic. None of them believe in Israel's right to exist. Let's stop right there. Number one, just because a person is Palestinian doesn't mean they're Hamas. So we got to quit with that assumption, right? Number one. Number two, saying that they're all anti-Semitic is BS. Because Palestinians are literally Semites. Look up. Go ahead and Google it. Google it. What is a Semite? A Semite is someone that speaks the languages that are Semitic. What are Semitic languages? They would be Hebrew, Aramaic, Arabic, and I think there's another. Those are Semitic languages. Who speaks Semitic languages besides Jewish people? Wouldn't it be Palestinians? Wouldn't it be Iraqis, Iranians, Afghans? Right? There's a lot of people that speak Arabic, including some African people, which means they're also Semites. So to be pro-Palestinian is not anti-Semitic. Palestinians cannot be anti-Semitic because that would be anti-themselves. And on top of it, being anti-Israel does not equal being anti-Semitic. How do I know? Because even Jewish people have said that Israel and Jewish are not synonymous. Israel is a settler colonial project and is ethno-nationalism of Jewish people, which a lot of Jewish people, including people like Max Blumenthal, Aaron Mate, Dr. Gabor Mate, Katie Halper, Norm Finkelstein, Eleanor Goldfield, Lee Camp, and many other Jewish people have stated, including many Orthodox Jews, that they do not agree with having in a state of Israel. So let's dispense with the whole anti-Semitic trope because it's not true. And on top of it, anti-Zionist is not anti-Jewish. So let's dispense with that because that is bullshit. And even a lot of Jewish people say it is. How do I know? I spoke with Jewish people. Hell, I go to my last clip with Noah Krejcivik, a Jewish person, who told me, yeah, no, it's not anti-Semitic to be against Zionism. So let's dispense with that. And he says, none of them believe in Israel's right to exist. Now, here is another question I need to ask you. Does an indigenous people have the right to defend themselves from an illegal occupying force? Do Palestinians have a right to defend themselves? Especially from illegal occupation. And you guys can say, well, they have their ancestors are from Israel from thousands of years ago. And yeah, but their ancestors left, lived in Europe for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. And now they're coming back and then kicking people off the land. Let me ask you this. Do I, as somebody who's a third Nigerian, have the right to go to Nigeria and take over somebody's land and kick them off their land who is ethnically and indigenous Nigerian? Do I have that right? Do I have the right to kick a indigenous Nigerian off their land? Do I? Because that's basically the same thing. I am literally a third Nigerian. I literally have the claim now By that very metric, I have the claim to go to Nigeria and kick somebody off their land and occupy the land that essentially belongs to them. And then, if they resist me, I get to call them a terrorist? Is that right? Doesn't seem right to me. Doesn't seem fair. Now, if I, as somebody who is part ethnically Nigerian, if I wanted to go to Nigeria and live among the Nigerian folks and get my own plot of land, let's say buy my own plot of land and, live next to them and in community with them, okay, fine. But I'm not taking their land. But that's not what happened. Talk to a lot of Jewish people that have visited the West Bank and have visited Gaza, and they will tell you that it is apartheid and it is an open air prison. Not even an open air prison, it's an open air concentration camp. And so somebody like DeSantis is saying things like, well, we don't want to let Palestinians in. We don't want to let them in because they're anti-Semitic, even though they themselves are Semites. That's like two Latino groups, one Brazilian and one Argentinian, and Brazilians and Argentinians are fighting against one another, and you don't want to let Brazilians in because you're calling them anti-Latino, when in reality they are Latino. They speak a Latin language. Portuguese is a Latin language. How are you going to call them anti-Latino against Argentinians when, because Argentinians speak Spanish and Brazilians speak Portuguese, that one is anti-Latino against another? They're both Latinos. And you wouldn't even be able to call Haitians anti-Latino because technically they are Latino too. Guess what? They speak a Latin language. French is a Latin language. So that's the thing. Like, it is crazy how the reasoning, and they will flip things in order to fit their narrative. And I find it funny that somebody like Ron DeSantis would ban people who he thinks are anti-Semitic, when in reality, if you talk to Palestinians, they're not anti-Jewish. They just they just want their land back. They don't want to be occupied. They don't want to be subject to apartheid anymore. You know what's funny though? I didn't hear shit about Ukrainian refugees coming here who could potentially be Nazis. And there are a bunch of Ukrainian refugees in the United States. Let's take a look. Okay. So here's from a local news station. It says refugees in Florida mark Russia-Ukraine war anniversary amid loss uncertainty. It says Olga Plugashenko is among the estimated 8.1 million Ukrainian war refugees. She has been living in Florida, the fifth state in the country with the most Ukrainians, with some 100,000. I just wanted to read that part. She said when Russian troops invaded the village, Plugashenko said that they had to cover all their windows in blankets when they weren't able to make phone calls or communicate in any way. She said, we didn't have electricity, we didn't have any gas, we didn't have any connection. What's going on in Gaza right now? They stopped food, electricity, fuel, medicines, not allowed in. Yet she was allowed to be a refugee here in Florida or in the United States. And yet, and she could have some Nazi proclivities, but that wasn't a concern for them. But it's a concern for anybody from Palestine, anybody from Gaza, whatsoever. Isn't that weird? How do I know? Take a look here. Out of Reuters, commentary, Ukraine's neo-Nazi problem. It says, as Ukraine's struggle against Russia and its proxy continues, Kiev must also contend with a growing problem behind the front lines. Far-right vigilantes who are willing to use intimidation and even violence to advance their agendas, and who often do so with the tacit approval of law enforcement agencies. Law enforcement agencies. Law enforcement agencies. It says, at January 20th demonstration in Kiev by 600 members of the so-called National Militia, a newly formed ultra-nationalist group that vows to use force to establish order, illustrates this threat. While the group's Kiev launch was peaceful, what in the world? Was peaceful, National Militia members and balaclavas stormed the city council meeting in the central Ukrainian town of Cherkasy the following day, skirmishing with deputies and forcing them to pass a new budget. Many of the new militia's members come from the Azov movement, one of the 30-odd privately funded volunteer battalions that in the early days of the war helped the regular army to defeat Ukrainian territory against Russia's separatist proxies. Although Azov uses Nazi-era symbolism and recruits neo-Nazis into its ranks, a recent article in Foreign Affairs downplayed any risks the group might pose, pointing out that, like any other volunteer militias, Azov has been reined in through its integration into Ukraine's armed forces. While it's true that private militias are no longer rule of the battlefront, it is home front that Kiev needs to worry about now. So if Ukraine has a Nazi problem, a clear Nazi problem, why is that not being addressed? Why is that not an issue? I'm going to share something with you guys. Let me see. I had it. Here we go. No, wait. Is that it? Yes. Okay. Let me share this with you all. Because this is what was happening in Ukraine. I didn't see anything in Palestine regarding anything anti-Jewish. Right? But this is what's happening in Ukraine. And we can have people like this as refugees, but Palestinians who are seeking refuge, they're not allowed. So So he's setting the rainbow flag and the Russian flag on fire.
Смерть ворогам України!
So yes, they had a White Lives Matter rally. So if we're going to talk about refugees, right? And about how, oh my God, Palestinian refugees are just dangerous. Yet, you claim to care about Jewish people. And yet, you didn't say shit about letting these people in. Nothing was said. Nothing. No type of care was given that, well, we need to screen some of these people because they could have some Nazi proclivities. And yet, come on in, right? I'm not against letting in refugees. But you have to have consistency in this matter. You're afraid that Palestinians coming in will be anti-Semitic when in reality they're not. And yet you're okay with actual anti-Semites, real anti-Semites coming into this country. Some of y'all need to research history. Some of y'all need to look at the Operation Paperclip, which welcomed Nazis into this country by means of our government. That's what happened. You don't think nothing changed? People like Biden and Trump, they don't actually care about Jewish people. They don't actually care about them. They only care about the state of Israel because it has American interests in the Middle East. Really corporate interests in the Middle East. They don't actually care about Jewish people. They never did. You'll have people like Marjorie Taylor Greene talk about how she cares about Jewish people, yet at the same time, this is the same lady that was anti-Semitic and talking about Jewish space lasers. They don't actually care about Jewish people. They're just Zionists. And Zionists, well, let's continue. This is what they do.
Україна! Україна! Вірі, життя важливі! Вірі, життя важливі! Вірі, життя важливі! Вірі, життя
These are the same people that will praise Stefan Bandera, who was a Nazi. So what now? See the inconsistency among the people who are running or at the present time running the government? They actually don't care. They will say, like, for instance, do you think Biden cares about LGBTQ people? No, he doesn't. He does not. Biden cares as much about LGBTQ people as he cares about Jewish people. We're only a means to an end. Biden only cares about Arab people as he does LGBTQ people or women. They're a means to an end. That's it. That's all. So it's no different with DeSantis. It's no different than with Trump. None of them actually care. It's just they're using it as a way to get elected. But yes, so they're trying to make it so that they cannot become refugees. Just to share this as well. And DeSantis isn't the only one when it comes to this issue. I'm going to share this as well. Trump vows to reject Gazan refugees after Israel attack. Says Mr. Trump in an Iowa speech further retreated from his criticism of Israel and did not repeat his comments about Hezbollah that prompted condemnation from political rivals. Says former President Donald J. Trump in remarks invoked the deadly Hamas attacks on Israel to stoke fears of terrorism at home. Said on Monday that he would expand a freeze on refugees that he enacted during his presidency to cover people from the Palestinian territory of Gaza. An extension of the anti-Muslim and anti-immigrant sentiments he channeling during his 2016 presidential run and made a cornerstone of his administration. Mr. Trump offered a litany of proposals that in many ways adapted his previous policies to reflect current events. He promised again to bar people from certain parts of the world, particularly where Islam is most commonly practiced, while curbing immigration and the overall number of refugees in the United States would take in. Yet we can do Ukrainian refugees. No consistency. No consistency on wanting to protect people. And no consistency for caring about people who are refugees. Because let's put it out there. Ukrainians are white. Largely. That's what it is. So yeah. So, oh boy, let me go into the chat because this was something. If you guys have not please make sure to like the stream if you have not already. Let me go into the chat and say, see the thoughts. Zoe says, read the Hamas 2017 charter. Nowhere in there does it talk about ethnic cleansing, yet a bunch of Israeli laws and military policies implore it. I wish I can show it on here, but I can't because then that will be considered terrorist propaganda and I would get my channel pulled. But thank you so very much for that, Zoe. Oh no, Jacqueline says RB and class. No, I guess because of certain timing with CJ and his kids, he has to go live at this hour. Unfortunately, I've been going live at 2 p.m. for the better part of almost 2 years now. So yeah, so this has been my time for forever. So, but good to see you, Jacqueline. Serena says, love getting desate and get demolished. Jacqueline says, I think Trump is relying too much on short-term memory of the viewer. Interesting. And yes, please hit the like. Thank you so much, Killia Grigors. Roger Meadows says, I early voted Sunday. I voted for the legislative initiative amendments put before us by the New York State legislator. And since there were no real third parties on the ballot or NDs, so everything else I left blank. Good deal, Roger. Good deal, bro. There's a lot of, by the way, if you guys are not, if you guys have a municipal election going on right now, there's some elections right now that are going on. If there is any ballot initiatives, things like that, I would vote for those. If there's nobody worth voting for, especially if you plan on voting third party, if there's nobody worth voting for, then just leave those blank, but make sure to cover the ballot initiatives if you can, especially if you're in a state that has those as well. And yes, Kill Your Grigor says you can always raid Nick and CJ when you're done. Yeah, I'm trying to get to that, but I'm running long on this stream, so I don't know if I'll be able to. I would like to though. Jacqueline says Trump does refer to Biden as a communist, so that's not surprising. That's Trump being an idiot. That's somebody who has no idea what communism actually is. That's why, it's always hyperbolic language to refer to somebody as a communist when they aren't even anywhere close. I mean, Biden is closer to Trump than Biden will ever be close to communism. I'll just put it that way. That's how you know that they don't know. Let me go to The Rock. All right. So, put this up. Oh, Roger. Roger, you're such a saint. Oh my gosh, Roger. God damn, I love this guy. Holy crap. Roger be coming in with the assists every damn time. Jeez Louise, Roger. Do you sleep, dog? Holy crap. Roger is a national treasure. God damn. He says, here you go, JB. A letter by Dem signing on to worried about Nazi presence in Ukraine in 2018. Oh, wait. Roger came in with the assist. Roger was like, here you go, boy. I got you, dog. Yes, Kill Your Grigor. St. Roger. Okay. Hold on. Oh, I don't need no damn AI. Leave me alone. All right, let's enlarge this. We want to read this good. This is from April 23rd, 2018. The Honorable John Sullivan, Deputy Secretary of State, U.S. Department of State, right? It gives the address. It says, Dear Deputy Secretary Sullivan, We write to express our dismay about recent reports of state-sponsored Holocaust distortion and denial taking place in Europe, particularly in Poland and Ukraine. These developments are unacceptable, especially given today's global surge of anti-Semitism. We urge you to join us and human rights organizations in standing against anti-Semitism, xenophobia, and all forms of intolerance by calling for the Polish and Ukrainian governments to unequivocally reject Holocaust distortion and the honoring of Nazi collaborators and fully prosecute anti-Semitic crimes. We also ask that you detail what steps are being taken by the United States government to monitor instances of Holocaust distortion and ensure that the U.S. is not supporting or funding groups and individuals that promote or justify anti-Semitism. We believe these steps must include a firm request that these defensive laws be repealed. As while the legal questions and historical context of Ukraine and Poland differ, developments in both countries are cause for concern. Earlier this year, Warsaw passed a law making it a criminal offense to state that Poland participated in the Holocaust. The law, which was rightfully criticized by the U.S. State Department, the Israeli government, and others, was accompanied by a surge of anti-Semitic remarks. The Israeli embassy in Warsaw reported being flooded by anti-Semitic vitriol, while members of the Polish Jews community expressed concern at rising tensions in the wake of the law, despite Polish President Andrzej Duda's assurances that the law would not be used to stifle free speech. A lawsuit has already been filed against the Argentinian newspaper using this law. Jan Zizek and Deputy Director of the Foreign Ministry have demanded that Israel change an exhibit in Yad Vashem in Jerusalem. An Israeli mayor was forced to cancel a commemoration ceremony after he refused local authorities' demands to remove references to Polish complicity in the Holocaust from his speech. Ukraine's 2015 memory laws went even further by glorifying Nazi collaborators and making it a criminal offense to deny their heroism. However, unlike Polish law, this move by the government in Kiev has received little to no public response from the United States, of course. The groups and individuals extolled by Ukraine include Nazi collaborators Stefan Bandera, Roman Shukovich, and the Organization of Ukrainian Nationalists, as well as the Ukrainian Insurgent Army. These paramilitaries and individuals in some cases collaborated with the Nazis and bear responsibility for the murder of thousands of Jews, 70 to 100,000 Poles, and other ethnic minorities between 1941 and 1945. It is particularly troubling that much of the Nazi glorification in Ukraine is government supported. I'm going to read this part again. It is particularly troubling that much of the Nazi glorification in Ukraine is government supported. Examples include 2017 pro-UPA campaign conducted by the Ukrainian Institute of National Memory, the naming of streets after Bandera and Shukovich by the Kiev City Council, and Lviv's 2017 Shukovich Fest, which took place in the anniversary of the 1941 Lviv pogroms, which 4,000 Jews were killed. State-sponsored Holocaust revisionism in Ukraine is accompanied by other forms of anti-Semitism, as Israel's Department of Diaspora Affairs pointed out in its annual report of anti-Semitism. The whitewashing of these Ukrainian heroes has coincided with the increasing incidence of anti-Semitism across Ukraine. This includes desecration of Holocaust memorials and Jewish places of worship, such as the desecration of a holy tomb in Uman with a swastika-carved pig's head, a January 2017 march in honor of Bandera, during which participants chanted Jews out, as well as last summer's firebombing of Lviv synagogue during Shukovich Fest. So I'm going to share this because, Roger, can I share this, by the way? because this is deep. Because people need to realize that they're saying, oh, well, we can't let Palestinians in, but yet you guys will let Ukrainians in. And are you screening them for being Nazis? Right? Like, make no mistake. The Biden administration, Trump, DeSantis, hell, I'll even say Obama, they don't actually care about Jewish people. Because if they did, they'd be screening Ukrainians. Now, what I'm going to say is, not all Ukrainians are Nazis, right? And to equate all Ukrainians with a group of people is wrong. But it's the same thing with Palestinians. How are you going to blanket them all and say, well, no Palestinians, nobody from Gaza is allowed in? You're doing the same thing. You're blanketing an entire group of people. So thank you for that, Roger. Appreciate it. That was wonderful. So it's been a problem for a long time. So if you guys have not already, please make sure to give a like on the stream. It helps out with the algorithm. Also, I just want to give a big shout out and thank you to all the patrons on Patreon, as well as Coffee, and anybody that sends me any type of mutual aid. Without you guys, I would not be able to do this work. Thank you. So thank you. Yes, I am demonetized. So if you guys would like to, you guys can either become a patron on Patreon, or you guys can become, you guys can send me anything from on PayPal. Those are linked in the description below, just so that everybody knows. I do have different tiers on Patreon if you guys would like to contribute. Here we go. We have JB members, Solidarity, Comrade, Jaybefaunters, Super Jaybefaunters, Super Duper Jaybefaunters, and Mega Jaybefaunters. So thank you so very much for your contribution to the channel. Also, we're raising funds for our homeless neighbors in Orlando. If you guys would like to, you guys can go to $Orlando RBN on our Cash App to give. We're trying to raise $3,000. We're a third of our way to the goal. So if you guys would like to, you guys can also help out with that as well. So let me make sure I get the link in here for you guys, just in case anybody wants to give a contribution to that. So thank you so very much to everybody. Okay. Oh, cool. Okay. All right. Thank you so very much to everybody. And thank you for that, Roger. All right. Yes. Roger says, of course you can. Share it. I got that from Sab. Then she lost it and asked if I had it. Of course I had it. I saved everything. Give props to her. Props to Savvy Sabs, boy. Props to her. My sister from another mister. All right. Thank you so very much for that. Okay. All right. Now, I have to talk about this, and I don't want to lose friends, but I got to stick by my guns on this one. me see. Oh, I meant to share that. Oh, well. Let me see. Let's take. Ooh. I'm going to share this really quick. And then so let me share this really quick. Oh, let me get into this. So, addressing friends. This is going to be tough because I have some friends that I think that there is a lot of propaganda that is out there that a lot of us are subject to. The quote Nick from RBN, America is the most propagandized country in the world. And I believe that to be true. And with that being said, there's a huge propaganda apparatus that has had hold on us that equates Zionism with Judaism, which they are not the same. In fact, let me do this because I want to make sure that, I purse my words carefully. Let me share this really quick. Because I'm going to share as much as I possibly can because I want this to be as educational as possible. This is from Torah Judaism. It says a common message from anti-Zionist rabbis. Anti-Zionism is not anti-Semitism. Zionism is not Judaism. Israel is not the state of the Jews. Being anti-Zionist and anti-Israeli does not make you anti-Semitic. Here are Jewish people who this banner says Judaism requires Jews to live in peace with their neighbors throughout the world. This says authentic Judaism forbids a sovereign Jewish state and forbids provoking conflict with others. It says Zionist rhetoric by Kalman, Yeager, and Dov Hikind does not represent authentic Jewish communities of New York, only radical Zionism. He says, this banner says, anti-Zionism is not anti-Semitism. Judaism and Zionism are diametrically opposed. I'm sure this is, sorry guys, I had this minimized. So there's that. Okay. Also, there was a video. Here we go. Let's share this.
They have a right to resist those who say. What I can say is that the Palestinians have the full right of the whole land. The land is theirs. They live there for not 7 generations, maybe 70 generations.
70.
Yes, you have to add a zero.
In the 7th century.
And what the Zionists did, not now, what they did 100 years ago, by tricks, they bring up much Jews from European countries to make up a majority. And that's what I want to tell you before you ask me what I have to say about the 7th of October. Every time you have to go back to the root, to understand the root. Yes, I'm a teacher. One time comes a child, teacher, he hit me. Oh, he's so bad. No, please, look the whole thing, what's happened, what you did to him before that, yeah? You have to look the whole situation around. You can't say, oh, how did George the 7th of October? You have to look the whole picture. The same thing in everything, you have to look in the whole picture, in the rightful picture, on the right way. Don't ignore parts because you have a will, so because it's benefit for you. Please look the picture objective like it is. Everybody knows that the Jewish population was very small, till 100 years ago, 120 years ago. It was very small percentage of Jewish people lives in the Holy Land. And there was a very beautiful life together with the Muslim people because they have no aspirations to take over the land. So the Muslim people are really very, very kind people. In the hospitality is very, very good, very good.
So there is a rabbi talking about the history. Here is another one.
We are here today to raise the voice of the world Jewry. We declare Netanyahu cannot speak in the name of the Jewish people. We are here today.
Now, I'm going to share something else as well because people will say, well, that's just one subset of Jews. I'm going to share this as well. All right, so let me share this really quick. This is from the group Jewish Voice for Peace. So this one was from 19 hours ago. It says, today, 500 Jews and allies took over the Statue of Liberty, disrupting business as usual to demand a ceasefire in Gaza. To the President of the United States, call for ceasefire. Stop funding Israel's bombing of Gaza. From Ellis Island to Gaza, never meet again means never again for anyone. Ceasefire now. Here are Jewish people that are all over the Statue of Liberty that are actually took over Ellis Island to say a ceasefire. They're against the illegal occupation of Palestine. These are Jewish people. Anti-Zionism is not anti-Semitism. Let's continue. Look at this. Right? Now, another thing. This is horrific to me. And I saw this. It says this letter signed by doctors who urged the bombing of hospitals in Gaza has been widely circulated in Israeli media, not as horrifying admission with the intent to galvanize support for the Israeli government's genocidal campaign. List of the names is partial. So you have literally Israeli doctors, many Israeli doctors that are signing on for advocating for the bombing of hospitals in Gaza. Says Israeli doctors urged the bombing of Gaza and hospitals. This was a few days ago in Grand Central Station. Jewish people that are screaming for a ceasefire, wanting Palestine to be free. Says, breaking, Rabbi Jessica Rosenberg is interrupting President Biden demanding a ceasefire now. She's speaking on behalf of thousands of American Jews who say, not in our name. We refuse to allow genocide to be carried out in our names. Ceasefire now to save lives. Let's hear what she has to say.
Mr. President, if
Oh
you
my
care
God.
about Jewish people, as a rabbi, I need you to call for a ceasefire right now.
So she's a Jewish rabbi. And they say never again for anyone. And there was thousands of them. Thousands of them. So I just want to dispense with the entire notion that being anti-Zionist is anti-Semitic. Now, if anybody wants to learn about the history of Gaza, I urge people to listen to the lecture by Professor Norm Finkelstein about this entire issue. Because Norm Finkelstein will teach you about what's happening in Israel and Gaza. And he is literally a son of Holocaust survivors. And I'm going to share the link to this in the chat because it's about 45 minutes. It's about 40 minutes. So I implore you guys to watch that because this will give you guys a more detailed overview about what's going on there. Let me see. there was another speech that I want to cover. Let's see. What is that doing there? That should not be up there. Okay. Okay. Let me see. There is a there's a speech by him that a lot of people haven't seen. Hey, did I didn't misspell his name. Okay. Yeah, I misspelled his name. Let me see. I thought I had it. I should have saved it when I had a chance. Sorry, guys. Let me see. Is this it? Okay. All right. This isn't the one I was particularly looking for, but let's see this one. This is from 13 years ago.
The chair would now like to address Mr. Blitzer. This question is interesting. I'll have to edit it a little bit. You implied that Israel has the right to exist because of what happened to the Jews during World War II. Why in Palestine? Don't the Palestinians too have the right to a secure homeland? Why do they have to suffer and make way for the Jews?
Look, we can go back and we can argue over the birth of Israel, justice of the birth of Israel. We can argue over whether or not there should be an Israel. There is an Israel today. There's a strong Israel today, a vibrant Israel that is not going to disappear. Palestinians have missed opportunities. There is an opportunity today. I don't see any useful purpose in arguing over what justifications Israel has to exist. Israel has all of the justifications in the world to exist. And I don't even think it's appropriate to question the reason why Israel exists. Thank God that there is at least one Israel, an Israel where Jews can live if they want to. They don't have to live there. But if they need refuge, if they want to live in a country that is a Jewish homeland, that's fine. And I think, as I said before, all of us should be delighted that we happen to be around at a time in this world when there is this Israel. Zionism is an ideology. It's the national liberation movement of the Jewish people. To deny Zionism, to reject Zionism, is about as racist an element as you can get. Why should all of these people, Palestinians and others, deserve a homeland if the Jews can't have a homeland? Have not the Jews suffered enough all of these years to have a homeland? Have not the Jews developed an identity, a culture, a religion? Sure, the Jews deserve a homeland. And there's an opportunity now to resolve all of these problems. It's not going to be an easy There's no quick fix solution, but it has to involve compromise, recognition of mutual rights, but certainly, given the history.
What they're showing pictures of is the actual Gaza Strip, where they have they have checkpoints for Palestinians. This is not in Israel. This is Gaza. This is in the West Bank, where they have the settlements and they're blocked by walls. So this is actually contradicting what Wolf Blitzer is actually saying.
Of what's going on over there. Anybody who ignores the security problems facing Israel, certainly the Israelis aren't, whether they're Likud or Labor or whatever, certainly anyone who does ignore those very, very real security problems in the Middle East, a dangerous neighborhood, they're going to be doomed to destruction. And I don't think that the Jews at this particular point in our history are prepared to accept that.
I wonder if I can comment on that.
No, I'm afraid you can't comment on that. I'm sorry, because I've got a question for. I've got to keep this.
Let me just add one point.
Because I'll give you a chance in a minute, Mr. Finkelstein. I'm going to give you a question to work from, because I want to make sure as many people in the audience feel honored as we can possibly manage. This writer says the Intifada is not an isolated problem. This problem is affected by 4 wars, terrorism, and the Holocaust. Why is it not relevant, in your opinion, for Israel to be secure?
Well, that nicely brings me back to the former question. I'll answer. And I'll answer both at the same time. I suppose it wasn't missed on anyone in the audience that Mr. Blitzer was deploying that same familiar lawyer's tactic. The question that was put to him was, if we accept the legitimacy of the state of Israel, why don't we also accept the legitimacy of a Palestinian state? And then Mr. Blitzer went on to tell us all the good reasons why we should accept the legitimacy of the state of Israel, something which, by the way, I concur with. But that still doesn't answer the question. If one does accept the legitimacy of the state of Israel, why doesn't one also accord the same rights to self-determination and statehood to the Palestinians? That was the question, as I understand it, that was put to him. Now, the issue of security was raised, and somebody made it, I think, inaccurate inference that I'm not concerned with the security of the state of Israel. I am. I'm also concerned about the security of a Palestinian state. Again, we have to apply the same standards across the board. Israel is ranked as the 4th leading military power in the world. Does it have real security claims against the Palestinians? Let me quote to you former Foreign Minister of Israel, Abba Eban. He said, Israel has as much to fear from a Palestinian state as the Soviet Union does from Luxembourg. How many people here feel the Soviet Union has a real threat from Luxembourg? Furthermore, if we apply the logic of Abba Eban, the Soviet Union had more rights to occupy Afghanistan than Israel does to occupy the West Bank and Gaza, because certainly Afghanistan poses a greater security threat to the Soviet Union than Luxembourg. How many people here support the Soviet occupation of Afghanistan? Now let's look at what Amos Oz says in his most recent book, The Slopes of Lebanon. He asks to me, even though I am no great admirer of Amos Oz, he asks to me a reasonable question. What does Israel, the 4th-ranking military power in the world, have to fear from a state that would be 1/5 the size of Albania and 1/2 the population of Kuwait? Is that a real threat to the state of Israel? Or is that simply an excuse to continue?
Yeah. I can't show images like that, but it's, yeah. We have to get to a point where we realize what the history is. I'm going to share the link to that as well. Because a lot of times people will sit and go, well, nah, we can't criticize Israel, when in reality we can. Let me see if I can get past that point, because all right, so let's let him finish.
Threat from the Palestinian state as the United States did from Grenada. Now, surely Ronald Reagan, or perhaps Ronald Reagan, believed that Grenada posed a major security threat to the United States, exactly as George Bush 2 weeks ago again affirmed that Nicaragua poses a major national security threat to the United States. Nicaragua, which has to its credit 2 escalators and 1 elevator, poses a national security threat to the United States. It seems to me applying the same standards as Abba Eban uses and Amos Oz uses, we have to dismiss this totally spurious notion that Israel is maintaining its occupation of the West Bank and Gaza for security reasons. It has very good reasons to maintain the occupation, but I'm afraid to say they have precious little to do with security.
So that's Professor Norm Finkelstein. So as you all probably have been aware, I do support Palestinian people. As someone who is Black, who has lived in this nation almost 40 years, I feel that it is important for me to see anybody that's marginalized and have solidarity with them. When you look at what Palestinians have been going through over the last 75 years, illegal occupation, as well as apartheid, you cannot deny the fact that they are being discriminated against. And what's going on now is the fact that they're being ethnically cleansed in Gaza. If you look at anybody who supported supported Palestine, you can look at different people who were civil rights leaders who supported Palestine as well. Let's go to one. Let's take a look at James Baldwin.
If we were white, if we were Irish, if we were Jewish, if we were Poles, if we had, in fact, in your mind, a frame of reference, our heroes would be your heroes too. Nat Turner would be a hero for you instead of a threat. Malcolm X might still be alive. And everyone is very proud of brave little Israel, state against which I have nothing. No, I don't want to be misinterpreted. I'm not an anti-Semite. But you know, when the Israelis pick up guns, or the Poles, or the Irish, or any white man in the world says, give me liberty or give me death, the entire white world applauds. When a black man says exactly the same thing, word for word, he is judged a criminal and treated like one, and everything possible is done to make an example of this bad nigger so there won't be any more like him.
So that's them, right? People like Nelson Mandela, who was considered a terrorist at one time. He expressed his solidarity with Palestinians. Malcolm X, Kwame Ture, Angela Davis, Sada Shakur. It is really in Black liberation tradition to support whoever is being marginalized. And it is not to be against Jewish people, but is to be against an illegal occupying state that is committing atrocities against a marginalized people. So what are we to do? And so there is this narrative that's saying there's a rise in anti-Semitism. If there is anti-Semitism, I would say it's anti-Semitism, yes, against Jewish people, but also against Palestinians. Being anti-Palestinian is also being anti-Semitic. Remember what I said earlier about Semitism? And so a lot of people are equating Palestinians with Hamas, which that is not true. And it's sad because you have a lot of people who are being propagandized to think that you equate the state of Israel, which was created 75 years ago, to anti-Semitism. Here's Kwame Ture.
That great man, V.I. Lenin, at the turn of the century, wrote a book entitled Imperialism, the highest stage of capitalism. Is it imperialism, the highest stage of capitalism? Yes. If one would read this little pamphlet, one would see here that Mr. Lenin had precisely pointed out that all of the world had already been conquered and divided by colonial powers. There was no else in the world left to be conquered or divided by colonial powers. This is the time when Zionism comes to rise. Zionism comes to look for a state when everywhere else in the world is already dominated. Thus, in order for Mr. Herzl to get a country for Zionists, what he did was to attach himself to imperialism, British imperialism in this case, quite specifically. Of course, as an African who suffered under the heels of British imperialism, I can have no love for it, and certainly I cannot love anyone who attaches themselves to it and attaches themselves to it for the foundation of a state and then call this a liberation movement. Liberation movements fight against imperialism, not with it. Clearly here. Yes. The legal foundation of the state of Israel is what is known as the Balfour Declaration. This declaration was issued in 1917. A man in the government of Britain named Balfour wrote a paper and promised the Jews a national home. The national home he promised them was an area which Britain was colonizing, Palestine. Palestine didn't belong to the British, just like Ireland doesn't belong to the British, even though they have troops there. But here, these British imperialists signed a note and gave it to the Jews, and they accepted it. Where is the morality for this? If you say that Israel belongs to you, then you don't go to a thief to get Israel, you go and take it. Once you go to an immoral being such as British imperialism, and this is the basis for you getting the land, then clearly here those who are truly liberation fighters must question this. basis we say is the Balfour Declaration, and Zionists know it. The Zionism is certainly not a liberation movement because it never fought against any imperialism. As a matter of fact, today, Zionism is the baby, child, and infant protector of imperialism in the Middle East. It carries out the interests of American imperialism. As a matter of fact, Zionism and American imperialism is like this. If our tax dollars would stop giving money to Israel, the state would sink tomorrow. And certainly no one can deny that American imperialism is the leading imperialist nation in the world. So we cannot see how a liberation movement is so tied, string, and ham to American imperialism. They work hand in hand with American imperialism. Thus, they can hardly be a liberation movement. In addition to this, Zionism has nothing to do with anything religion, nothing. All religions are concerned with human beings after they die. That's what religions are for. Islam will tell you what happens to you when you die. As a matter of fact, this which forces you to live a good life so that after death, you'll be able to enjoy the rewards of heaven. The same is true for Judaism, but Zionism says nothing about the individual after they're dead. They don't give a damn about you. Zionism has nothing to do with religion at all, and one should not make the confusion here.
One of the things I think that need to be pointed out in regards to Zionism is that the Palestinians that are being murdered right now, some of the Palestinians that are being murdered are also Jewish. So you have Jewish Palestinians that are being killed, Christian Palestinians that are being killed, as well as Muslim ones. So Zionism has nothing to do with religion. Zionism has everything to do basically with control of a region. So again, if you look at the Palestinians that are being killed there, it has nothing to do with it, because if they really cared, if Israel really cared, they wouldn't have bombed the church. It's Al Jazeera. Israel bombs Greek Orthodox Gaza church sheltering displaced people. As an Israeli air attack has killed and injured a large number of displaced people sheltering at a church compound in Gaza, according to the besieged Palestinian enclave's interior ministry. The strike left a large number of people, martyrs and injured at the compound of Greek Orthodox St. Porphyrius Church in Gaza City, the ministry said on Thursday night. Officials in Gaza reported on Friday that at least 16 Christian Palestinians were among the dead. Witnesses told the AFP news agency the air raid appeared to have been aimed at a target close to the 12th century place of worship where many Christian and Muslim Gaza residents had taken refuge as the war raged in the enclave. The Israeli military told AFP that its fighter jets had a command and control center involved in launching rockets and mortars towards Israel. As a result of the IDF, the Israeli army strike, the wall of a church in the area was damaged. Adding, "We are aware of reports on casualties. The incident is under review." That's what's going on. This church was built in about 1150 and is the oldest church still in use in Gaza. Located in the historic neighborhood of Gaza City, the church offered sanctuary to people of various faiths over generations. So They said, explaining the damage done to the church, Israeli military claim Hamas intentionally embeds its assets in civilian areas and uses the residents of the Gaza Strip as human shields. Gaza has been hit by a relentless barrage of Israeli fire following an attack by Hamas fighters on October 7th, which Israel said killed at least 1,400 people, most of them civilians. Just to let you guys know, over 7,000 Palestinians have been killed. 3,500 of them have been children. Now, here's the thing. People will say, well, the Hamas is using human shields, things like that. Let's just say, hypothetically, that's the case. Wouldn't it behoove someone, instead of using carpet bombing, to use targeted strikes to go in and get the perpetrators? If Hamas was hiding out in Israel, would it be okay to carpet bomb Israel to just get to Hamas? I want you to really sit with that question. If a school shooter was in there and the police had to get to the school shooter, would you bomb the school in order to get to the school shooter? Why isn't this any different? Why is it okay to bomb hospitals, churches, schools, residential buildings? Why is that okay when it's Palestinians? But if it was Israelis, oh, we can't do that. Why did the move bombing happen in Philadelphia? Oh, go ahead. Research it. The move bombing. Yes. A bombing on American citizens in Philadelphia happened in the 1980s. They could have used people on the ground to go in and get the guys that they need to get and extract them. They can do that. But they wouldn't dare. So why are they so okay with doing this? You see, I've seen the bodies, man. I've seen them. Babies. Let me share this. Because I feel like Norm Finkelstein right now. And this is basically my response too. Because I can't stand by.
Hi. Yeah. During your speech, you made a lot of references to Jewish people as well as certain people in your audience, not Jewish people in general, but certain people, especially in your audience, to Nazis. Now, that is extremely offensive when certain people are German. And they're also extremely offensive to people who've actually suffered under Nazi rule.
I don't respect that anymore. I really don't. I don't like and I don't respect the crocodile tears to the crocodile tears. No, I'm so, folks. Allow me to finish and allow me to finish. Listen, sir. Allow me to finish. Allow me to finish. Sir. I don't like to play before an audience the Holocaust card. But since now I feel compelled to. My late father was in Auschwitz. My late mother, please shut up. My late father was in Auschwitz. My late mother was in Majdanek concentration camp. Every single member of my family on my father's side,
the Jews did not take arms against the
my late father was in Auschwitz concentration camp. My late mother was in Majdanek concentration camp. Every single member of my family on both sides was exterminated. Both of my parents were in the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising. And it's precisely and exactly because of the lessons my parents taught me and my two siblings that I will not be silent when Israel commits its crimes against the Palestinians. And I consider nothing more despicable than to use their suffering and their martyrdom to try to justify the torture, the brutalization, the demolition of homes that Israel daily commits against the Palestinians. So I refuse any longer to be intimidated or browbeaten by the tears. If you had any heart in you, you would be crying for the Palestinians, not for what's being done.
What? Can I just calm the audience down?
So, what's going on in Palestine? I have seen the mutilation of babies. I've seen body parts blown apart of children. I have seen fathers and mothers scream and cry and dig through the rubble for their kids. I've seen this. I've seen it too many times. I've seen it, my heart broken over the fact that they have been genociding over and over. 45 bloodlines, 45 have been wiped clear off the face of the earth. 45 families gone. Gone. And you cannot tell me that this is not genocide. There are a ton of receipts on this. You cannot believe everything what the Zionists are telling you. Let me see this. Where's my here we go. Bookmarks. Thank you. And please do not come at me with, oh, well, you're gay. And if you're gay, then the Palestinian people would do and insert horrible thing to you. No, because queer Palestinian people exist. And they're being killed too. Here you go. Messages from queer people of Palestine and West Bank during Queer the Map. Sister thread of one I listed with messages from Gaza. Palestinian queer people exist and they want liberation from Israeli occupation, just like any other Palestinian person. Here's a career person says, around here would be where I live if Palestine hadn't been taken under colonization. I am a teenage bi-gender, aromantic Palestinian Syrian person. I always miss my homeland, even when I've never, ever been there. Free Palestine until it's backwards. I live in Amman, and I go to school in Khalda. I love you, Maya. You're my best friend, even though I know you don't love me back. Another one. Palestinian queer and refugee here. I originally come from this village, Lifta, that was ethnically cleansed by Zionists in the 1948. So this person says, I hate this effing unfair life because if my rights aren't debatable as a Palestinian in the Arab world, it's debatable as a queer. And if my rights aren't debatable as a queer in the West, then it's debatable as a Palestinian. This person says, the hometown that I, a queer Palestinian, will return to one day. This one says, my Palestinian brother found out I was gay and told his twin brother, and surprisingly, they were accepted, and one of them was bisexual. Also, free Palestine, and don't forget that Israel is a colonial state that also persecutes queer Palestinians as well as every Palestinian. Stop the pink washing. And there's more. There's over and over and over and over. People just expressing their love for people who they've been in love with. So they exist. And if you're advocating for the continuing bombing, if you're advocating or you're equating Palestinians with terrorists, that's who you're also doing. Let me share this with you guys too. Because people will say, well, it's easier to be gay in Israel. Israel doesn't care about us. Just like the United States government doesn't really care about us, the Israeli government doesn't care about gay people either. How Israel blackmails Palestinians into treason. On Saturday, the Lions Den, a Palestinian armed resistance group, announced it had executed a man it accuses of collaboration with Israel. It is a horrific and disturbing instance of Israel's long-standing practice of blackmailing Palestinians into desperate circumstances and betraying their own people, and the terrible consequences that follow. In a brief statement on the messaging app Telegram, the Nablus-based guerrilla group addressed the struggling Palestinian masses. It says, the man who identifies himself as Zuhair Galith explains that he was blackmailed using a video showing him in a sexual relationship with another Palestinian man who Galaith says was an agent of Israel, implying that he was set up. Under threat of exposure, Galaith said he agreed to spy on resistance fighter for the Israeli army. You don't think they didn't do that here in the United States to us queer people? Reminder that the United States also did that against the Black Panthers. And please do not use queer liberation as an excuse to commit a genocide against the people. Genocide is wrong. We can work on the other stuff later. But how can you expect them to actually change their minds if they're all dead? There's more. And I wish I can show some of this video, but I can't because I'll get flagged on YouTube. But it's just horrible. But I'm just going to leave you guys with this because I think this is important. And I'm going to put this entire thread in the chat as well.
We have a message for this Nakba Day, for this 75 years of occupation. We want the world to know that what is being perpetrated against the Palestinian people, the oppression, the subjugation, the terrible cruelty is not in the name of our religion. It is not in the name of the Star of David. It is not in the name of the Jewish people around the world who are true to the Jewish religion. Because we are Jewish and because we are true to our religion, we are in total opposition to the existence of the Zionist state of Israel. I call it Zionist state of Israel because it is Zionist. It is not Jewish. Judaism in the Torah forbids Jews to have our own sovereignty, our own entity since the destruction of the temples, and Jews true to the Torah never aspire or try to have our own state. We also are forbidden to kill or to steal. The whole concept of taking this land away from the Palestinian people, it is totally antithetical and is contradictory to my religion, Judaism. Jews have always, from day one, stood up against this Zionist entity. We as Jews continue. Because we are true to the Torah, we stand and demonstrate and we cry and suffer and feel the suffering of the Palestinian people. We want the world to know we are in solidarity. We are together with the Palestinian people in their suffering, and we hope and pray to God constantly for the total end of the occupation. We want the world to know that the Zionist movement is not a Jewish movement. It was a political, material movement created by heretics, and they simply try to incorporate our religion in order to intimidate and silence people and call them anti-Semitic if they stand in opposition. But this is patently false. Anti-Semitic is supporting the state of Israel. It is a cause of exacerbating anti-Semitism by having this occupation. It is a cause of bloodshed of the Palestinians and Jews alike. It is the cause of the oppression of not only the Muslims and the Christians in Palestine, but of the Jews. Hundreds of thousands of Jews stand in Palestine, have lived there prior to the state. They have lived and they're continuing to live till today and demonstrate daily and get brutally beaten and arrested. This is the sad story of this terrible Nakba. It is a tragedy, a calamity, and God with his compassion, we hope, will see the suffering. And even today, the last few days, how you see daily the death and suffering of the Palestinians and the attacks. It's all Zionism, not Judaism. God with his compassion should bring a speedy removal of the Zionist state of Israel so we can once again live together in harmony, Jews and Arabs, as we've had for all these hundreds and hundreds of years, and Jews could show their gratitude to the Arab and Muslim countries for their embracing Jews and giving them a home. Inshallah, soon in our days. Amen. Assalamu alaikum.
I am an anti-Zionist Jew. Israel says it's the state for Jews. Well, let's start with the fact that, one, not all Jews live there, and two, the majority of its citizens are not Jewish. I used to be a two-state solution. That was always my thing. I believe it's impossible now. I believe there has to be a one state for all of its people with equal rights, period. But I've been there. It's an apartheid system. I was allowed to use one road, but other people weren't. I was allowed to have water while other people weren't. Not right. The time I was there was in 2017. I went to El Khalil, which everyone else calls Hebron. I refuse to call it that. I was in Ramallah. I went to the Kalandia checkpoint. I see what happens. I went to the Waldorf Hotel. This has been a lifelong resistance for me. It's something that I chose to do since I was 16 years old when I saw this cannot be. So yes, I know the intricacies, and when people say it's complicated and no, don't get involved, it's too challenging. No, it's not. It's very easy. It's very simple. You don't have to go to Nablus the way I did. You don't have to go to Karam the way that I did. I wasn't allowed into Gaza, so I didn't go, but in those areas, it was, Hebron, my God, the Khalil, it was crazy, ludicrous. It's insane. How can our tax dollars pay for this? Colonialist and imperialist, they're all colonial settler countries, and this is why they stand together. For settlers that are from New Jersey, they're from New Jersey, they're from New York. Well, obviously our governments are not listening to us now, but I'll tell you one thing. I'm not contributing to any political campaign of anyone that does not come out in favor of the Palestinian people. I will not.
And that's precisely why I am in full support, just like many Jewish people, for the rights and the freedom of Palestine. I stand with Jewish people on that one. So yeah. And here's my thing. I've had friends say, well, you're about to lose friends over this. I don't want to lose friends. I don't want to lose friends over this issue. And it's precisely that. If you're friends with me, then you're friends with me because you realize the integrity that I have, especially for people who are marginalized and displaced. Right now, that is the Palestinian people. And if you're friends with me and you respect me as a friend, then you will realize that it is precisely my integrity and the support and solidarity that I have with marginalized people as to why I support Palestinians. And just because I support Palestinians does not mean I don't support Jewish people. I do. And it's the precise reason why I support Jewish people as to why I don't support Zionism. Because Zionism is also anti-Jewish. Because Zionism will place Jewish people in harm's way. That's the problem. Zionism has contributed to colonialism and stealing land away from Palestinian people. And then when Palestinian people have to resist because of an occupying force, what happens? Then the Zionists will put Jewish people in harm's way to fight for a land that was stolen, thus ending the lives of precious Jewish people. And ultimately, some of these Zionists, all these Zionists really, do not care about the lives of Jewish people. It's all really just for resources and Western hegemony. So if you feel the need to end friendships instead of, talking to me about this issue, I'm sad to see you go. But I'll always be here to welcome you back. Especially, once you realize the truth. Dr. Gabor Mate, Norm Finkelstein, Aaron Mate, Katie Halper, Eleanor Goldfield, Max Blumenthal, Lee Camp. Those are just some of the Jewish voices that are speaking out in support of Palestine to end the illegal occupation. And that's where I got a lot of my information from. Oh, and Midwestern Marx's own Noah Krejcevich, who was on here a few days ago to speak about this issue too. Let me share this last, just so that everybody will see what I was talking about. Let's see. So this video was called The Analysis of Occupation. Noah Krejcevich joins. That's the point. Because if you look at Saudi Arabia, what they did in, I think it was Iran, with the overthrow of Mohammed Mossadegh, and then they put in the Shah, thank you.
And it's not even just like a moral thing, like what they're doing to the Palestinian people should disgust us, like on a physical, like it should make your stomach turn type of thing. But the material interests of all working class people align, especially in something like this. And my coworkers, most of whom are white, I live in Cleveland, so it's mostly black, and there's it's generally an integrated thing everywhere. But in carpentry, it's mostly white people, right? And they've said the same type of thing. Like, why should we care about what's happening to the Palestinians? They ain't got nothing to do with this. I don't know any Palestinians. And the first thing I tell them is that, well, look around. Look at our city. Look at our country. It's crumbling, right? People are destitute, struggling paycheck to paycheck. Our roads are falling apart. We got no production here whatsoever. No economy. Everything is owned by these giant banks, etc. And it's our government funding this, right? They're taking money from you and me to fund a genocide.
Yeah.
Second, who do you think these Palestinians are fighting against? They're fighting against your enemy, buddy. They're fighting against those people stealing everything from you and impoverishing your family. The enemy of my, or the friend of my, or what is it? Enemy of my enemy is my friend, right?
Mm-hmm.
So of course you should care, because what is good for them is good for you. And so when I talk about this, there's so many levels to it, but I begin there, and I begin with material interests. Because why is the genocide even happening, right? It's not because Israel becomes evil out of nowhere and just gets these evil ideas. It's their material interests that create these evil ideas, right? Yeah. It's the need for capital to expand into these settlements that creates the settler colony in the first place.
Just to let you guys know, again, he's Jewish. And he gives a real. So if you guys have not, I implore you to watch that, because I wanted to make sure I had a Jewish voice to talk about it too. So I'm going to go to chat because I'm over on my time, but I want to talk about this. Serena says, I saw the videos of the people blocking the weapons from being sent to Israel. Amazing what direction action can achieve. Absolutely. Thank you so very much for that, Serena. Lou says, my grandmother was with Bonhoeffer. She called this girl an embarrassment. Wow. Talking about the girl from the Norm Finkelstein video. Kelly Grigor says, friend can disagree on stuff. I have a hardcore Christian Zionist friend. We don't discuss this topic because it is written that Jews need to be for the second coming, and I'm a heretic at heart. So it's almost like using Jewish people, you know what I mean, in a very horrible way, like just so that they can usher in the second coming of Jesus Christ. It's like, what? Wow. So yeah. Let me continue. Love you too, Notori. Good to see you in the chat. Mr. Miguel says the sad tragedy has made me research Islam, and I can see how it's so related to Christianity. It's crazy. Yeah, it is. Cobra Commander says they bombed Al Jazeera. Oh yeah, they did. And Telesur, which is crazy, absolutely crazy to do stuff like that, bomb journalists in hospitals. Yeah, there was a report by a journalist, and his fellow journalist was killed in a bombing, and they were crying on camera because he had to report it. And there's some of the stuff, like, if I could share some of the stuff, I might be able to only do this on like a Rockfin only episode, but some of the images that had come out, golly. Like, I've shared some of this stuff on Twitter. Like, if you follow me on Twitter, you'll see it. But yeah. For those of you who are on Twitter, let me also share this with you too. This is from Madeline Pendleton. Wonderful, wonderful young woman. She is sharing resources to learn about everything that's going on in Gaza and in Palestine. She says, for anyone wanting to learn more about Palestinians have been going through for decades, here's a thread of links organized by topic. So you got the early history of the region, right? All these different links. The first Nakba, the colonization of Palestine with, videos, treatment of Palestinians up to October 7th and how they've been treated. Treatment of Palestinians up to October 7th, part 2. Israeli war crimes. Israeli war crimes, part 2. Children's deaths. Let me share this with you guys, because you guys need to see this too. This is called countingthekids.org. Children killed by the Israeli-Palestinian conflict from 2000 until today. All the blue is Israeli kids. All the black, green, and red are Palestinian children. This is the amount of Palestinian children that were killed. When I said this is disproportionate, I meant it. This is genocide. This is genocide. Because if you're taking out little kids and stop, this is just 2023, baby. Now we're getting into 2022. Look at 2014. So when people talk about the risks to Israel, it is way disproportionate. And 2023 alone has been the worst year for Palestinian kids, one of the worst years. All those babies. All those babies killed, murdered. This is why I stand with Palestine. This. Somehow it's wrong for me to say I'm against genocide. Somehow that's a bad thing. Anyway, I gotta get going. I'm hungry, and all I had was a smoothie today. Like I said, I don't want to lose friends. But by God, you guys got to do the research on this. Once you do the research on this, your mind will change. Please do. And the majority of the world stands for Palestine. So if you guys have not, please make sure to give the stream a like. Also, if you guys would like to, you guys can subscribe to my Substack at jaybefaunt.substack.com. And thank you to the patrons on Patreon and Coffee. And for this very reason, I am demonetized because I shared what was going on in Gaza on stream. And like I said, I don't want to lose friends, but I have to stand by the marginalized. And right now, that's the Palestinian people. And all those people, God, so much carnage. And I see it all the time. And the thing is, I don't want you guys to see it, but in order to really get the magnitude of what I see, if I have to share it with you guys in a DM, I will. But that's how bad it is. Okay. I'm going to check Rockfin really quick before I go. Just in case. Yeah, I don't want to miss out on anybody's comments. Sorry, guys. Just this is difficult, man. Especially what people are going through, man. It's just okay. Thank you so very much for the tip on Rockfin, Roger. Oh gosh. He said, getting really tired of this dirty, rotten scoundrels of a Congress who spent the last year and a half financing the Azov Nazi battalion embedded within the Ukrainian military, and Americans who supported that, telling us that we are anti-Semitic because we're standing with Palestinians. People, next time these MFers try to tell you that, make sure you throw that shit in their face. Dave Burt says, thank you to Roger for keeping it real in here, and to JB for the stream. Thank you so very much to Dave. Thank you for the tip, Dave. He says, keep your wise production going. JB, good luck. Thank you. Yeah, you would get along with me in a live philosophy discussion. I think you probably have a lot to teach me, Dave. Thank you so very much. Roger, thank you so much for the tip. He says, hey, Jay, I think you can get that Palestinian lady who supported Max Frost just to get brokenhearted when he betrayed her on your show sometime. This is her time. Matter of fact, get Max Frost too. I don't know if I'll be able to get Maxwell Frost. I have a doubt that I'll be able to get him, but the Palestinian lady who supported Max Frost, I can try. I would like to get in contact with her, but sometimes the people who are Palestinian, they're hard to get because a lot of people also are having them come on their streams and shows and stuff. And my channel is really small, so fortunately it's kind of difficult to get them, but I would love to get some of them and their voices as well. So I'm gonna try to out, especially to the Florida Palestinian Network. I was at their rally a couple weeks ago, so I would like to do that too. So thanks a lot, Roger. I appreciate it. Anywho, guys, remember to, always remember who benefits around the world, especially in regards to where they stand. Follow the money, because these corporations will, and they will undermine many different, marginalized groups. And as far as, solidarity with anybody who is marginalized around the world, and keep being vigilant in your integrity. And so, yeah, I'll be getting into Assata Shakur's autobiography, as well as Laziness Does Not Exist by Dr. Devon Price. But thank you so much to everybody for tuning in. Like I always say, water your plants, water yourselves, leave the world better than you found it. Mwah! Forehead kisses to every single one of you. Love you very much. And have a good day.